How many knobs does OtterTune analyze? I think it's quite a few. And then why is it important to look at these knobs and update their configuration?
So OtterTune can analyze most of the configuration knobs in Postgres and MySQL. However, what I will say is that we have per database about 15 to 20 knobs that we do recommend that OtterTune analyze, because we found that they have the biggest impact on system performance. So why it's important to do this is because the correct knob configuration really depends on the database server's hardware and the application workload. So a read-heavy workload is going to be potentially going to need different configurations versus like a write-intensive workload. That's just one very high-level example. But a lot of these configuration knobs also need to be configured, for the resources allocated to the system. So quite a few of the important knobs will be memory buffers. And so, standard Postgres, basically like configures these knobs and as well as MySQL to work on like the minimum hardware requirements that they support. Amazon does, in RDS and Aurora, they take it up a notch and, will configure like some of the really important ones like shared buffers for you just based on, the hardware or the, the amount of RAM in the system. But overall, like it still might not be the absolute perfect amount. That's just kind of based on like general best practices for that one. So being able to use a tool like OtterTune that's able to, customize and fine tune the configuration parameters for your workload and your hardware can give you a big bang for your buck, as we've shown, in some of our blogs. I think we get, like a 2 to 4x increase in performance.
When RDS and Aurora are recommending stuff, is it kind of similar to PGTune, where it's just kind of looking at like, oh, well, the hardware configuration is this, and kind of giving some generic stuff to you?
That's exactly right. So it's just going to be like a one shot. Like it's just they adjust the configuration knob once, for you. So basically, like when you start up a new MySQL or Postgres instance, they've already adjusted the size of the buffer pool to be roughly like 50 to 80% of memory. Whereas if you went on standard Postgres and MySQL, I think it's maybe set to, I forgot what the default is, but it's maybe like a few gigs.
Gotcha. And I guess another follow-up would be, so it's doing that when you spin up the initial RDS, say Postgres instance, but unlike OtterTune, I would assume it's not learning over time based on your workload or application, right? It's kind of giving you those recommendations, and then it's kind of like, all right, here you go.
Right, and they're not even recommendations. It is just the static parameter group. They call it a parameter group. It's the static configuration that they provide you when you first spin up the instance. So it's not even a recommendation in that sense. It's just set to be like a little bit better value for most of the hardware that they that they're providing to their customers. So yeah, so after you spin it up, they are not providing subsequent recommendations to help improve that number further.